Deborah there, and our special guest today is Leighton Morrison, right?
Happy to have him.
Yeah, Morrison, correct.
And we have some other. Maybe we're gonna have a guest speaker because I know he's got all the my logo out there. But Deborah, why don't you tell everybody who this guy is?
Well, I think Leighton should tell us. I mean, I was confused when I went to your website, which is Aquaponics LLC, because it said it was somewhere in Vermont or Connecticut, but I thought you were here in Southern California.
I am. I'm physically here in Southern California.
Where you reside.
Yeah, I mean, I travel the country doing work, so I didn't really need to have a place per se in any one state. And my love came down with stage 4 ovarian cancer 2 years ago.
Oh my goodness!
And we could not. I did not want her back in Connecticut because of the ticks and the stuff that's going around with them. I mean, it's not even Lyme's. It's these new hybrids that are really scary. And so, you know, we were looking for a place to set her up, and we stumbled on. We were coming from Bellingham, Washington, going to New Mexico for some work that I had down there. And on the way down, I said, "Hey, baby, you know, you told me you always wanted to go to Ojai. It's a couple hours out of the way. Why don't we spend the night there?" And so we rolled into Ojai and fell in love with it. You know, caught the vibe. It was really cool. This was January 4th last year, or this year.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I think we really should do your bio because you're a very impressive bio, and it's not fair. And if you're not going to do it, I'm going to do it, Deborah. You better do it. I'm sorry to interrupt you, man, but you have a great, wonderful bio. I want everybody to know, a little bit about your past before we start talking about the present, don't you think? Or unless you don't want anybody to know your bio. Is that it?
I'm okay. I mean,
Deborah, go ahead. Read it out there, but come on, say it. Don't you know the bio?
It started when he was in 7th grade, right?
Okay,
Yep.
Okay. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to
bred fish. You did some architecture. You produced stonework. You kind of stumbled upon this, and I didn't quite understand how. That's one of my questions. How did you stumble upon aquaponics? And maybe you should tell the audience what aquaponics means, because I was confused myself. I thought it was water, but it's actually aquatic animals like fish.
Correct.
Put into an environment where you put hydroponics, which are plants. The plants feed on the nutrients that the fish creates as waste, and then the plants purify the water, is my understanding.
And that's perfect. That's spot on. So essentially, aquaponics is the use of fish to grow plants.
Okay, I got it now. So he started Kingdom Aquaponics, founder and principal. That would be you, Leighton Morrison, has a unique and diverse background. I want to read the whole thing, man. It's really wonderful. I read it and I'm going, holy cow. So as a child, he gravitated to alternative energy and natural system and sustainability after experiencing the 1973 oil crisis. How old were you then?
I'm 63, so that would have been about 10.
Oh, wow. You did that at 10? And then he designed a passive solar system with indoor gardens for food production in a mechanical drawing class in 7th grade. Wonderful. In 7th grade, I was bored. I was just sitting there going, Okay, so in his teenage years, he began to breed fish for sale. Even cooler, incorporate them into a living garden system. That is wonderful. In the 80s, he became obsessed. I've been obsessed forever with the project Biosphere 2. I loved it too. I wish I would have gone to see it. Is that in Wyoming, right?
No, it's actually in Arizona.
Arizona. It's a big,
I've been there a couple of times. Yeah,
big giant place, and the science behind it. That was a good idea. There were some problems. In 1983, he started a construction company with sustainability emphasis and attended Boston Architectural Center. See, just the first paragraph or two, we're already going nuts, right? Okay, so, right? Then he started a marble and granite company in 1993 and worked with clients looking for artistic flair and alternative to man-made solid surfaces. Cool. We're going to have to talk about that a little bit. This reflected applied knowledge for another of his passions, geology. In 1996, he constructed a zero-impact home on the coast of Maine. Wow. and eliminated all nitrogen and phosphorus discharge into the ocean from waterfront property while fabricating exotic stone for discerning clients. Whoa.
That's pretty incredible.
Everybody take a little whoa, right?
Yeah. And how old are you at this point, Leighton? In your early 20s or something?
Yeah, I think I was in my mid-20s.
Wow.
Wow, that is
You are
really
an entrepreneur.
cool. In 2008, Leighton went back to his roots, passions, and began the structural work for an aquaponic future through a process of discovery, beginning with a comprehensive plan for standalone aquaponics facility in Vermont. He recognized as a significant business opportunity. Instead of just focusing on the local farm-to-table movement, truly organic production and food security, he investigated repurposing the waste streams of aquaponics and aquaculture. Very good, man, very good. Okay, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. I tell you, I'm reading this thing and I had to go get some food, come back and read some more. In 2012, Leighton set up a small-scale aquaculture system with 100 tapia at Rodale Institute. Man, I couldn't get anywhere near Rodale Institute. I tried, but it's just like solid wall. You did really good. He worked with Elaine Ingram. Wonderful. I would love to have met her. She's one of my idols. A world-renowned soil biologist, blending his byproducts with traditional compost and worm casting to prove the value of aquatic ecosystems byproducts and how they can reduce the need for synthetics on the environment. I mean, each one of these chapters we have to do a show on, okay? So for 18 months, Leighton studied the art of composting, compost tea brewing, extract making, and vermiculture to complete the proof of concept work necessary. By combining these products, techniques, and applying them to his knowledge of machines, you're going to eventually have to tell people your knowledge of machines. He was able to develop processing equipment to produce the end products that Kingdom Aquaponics is now offering. I still got more, and I ain't nowhere near yet. Leighton then joined forces with Scott, Sotilio?
James
Sotilio of Ecological Landscape Management, a nationally recognized pioneer in organic land and tree care. I never heard of the dude. I never heard of him, so I don't know what planet I've been on. Together, they vetted the product while continuing to improve it with the tried and tested method that James has implemented in his work. Leighton has successfully scaled up production 3 times. You're gonna have to explain that. Without compromising quality. That's the trick, right? The 4th generation processing equipment has already been designed and is awaiting demand, so it may be purchased, installed, and put into operation. Here's the little thing you wrote. The goal has always been to slow the environmental impact of humanity. Amen. And I'm honored to be on the forefront of bringing safe, natural land care products to the masses. Okay. Now you can talk all you want to and try and let's try to figure this thing out because, dude, I mean, you know, like I said, you may just have to be a permanent guest because I just do every chapter. I mean, every paragraph here is like mind blowing. Okay, so it's just. Yeah. I mean, I don't have any minds I don't have a mind, see, so it doesn't, you know, it doesn't
blow out.
Yeah, it doesn't blow out. But so it's all yours, Leighton. What do you want to tell us? Because I mean, you know.
There's so much.
By the way, you know, everybody. So you know what I do for a living, but so my problem has been always finding the key because you know the compost. I've been trying to get. For years and years, I just make my own compost because that's the basic key. You know, it's the living organisms, right? And try to bring living organisms to people. So I haven't had a rough time, but I've been buying your incredible liquid. And maybe we should start there real fast and talk about that liquid, what it is that you're making, because that liquid has totally changed some of my properties already. Lady said, what did you do here? What did you do? Because she was looking at, no, she was, you know, because I work with these customers forever, trying, and I come back and gets destroyed, and I send it off to the lab, and the lab says there's nothing here. I go, oh gee, I just put it there last month, and so tell people about what do you call your liquid, and how you make it.
The liquid is called Harmonize.
Harmonize. Cool.
And I actually stopped selling it for a number of years because people just didn't respect what I told them. I explained to them, this is a living product. This is a puppy dog or a kitten. And you have to feed it and you have to take care of it. You can't just sit it on the shelf or leave it in the hot sun or leave it in your car.
It'll smell like something died.
It will die, literally.
Right.
And the only problem is again, it still has great value because it will be plant available nutrients. The
Yeah.
problem is it's mobile. So
Yeah.
as soon as you water it, if the plant hasn't uptake it, it's gone.
Yeah.
So the whole goal is to get these living organisms into play alive so that they can do the work for you.
Yeah.
You're inoculating, not just,
Yeah.
stimulating.
Inoculated soil, right, right.
Right, right.
So tell people how you make it, what, the whole process of that, because it has to do with fishes.
Yes, yes. So I have a resource for my aquatic fish frass back on the East Coast, and it's the oldest trout farm in the United States of America.
Cool.
And it's located in Barnstable, Mass. It's called Blue Stream. My good friend Keith Wilden and I have been friends for 10, 12 years, something like that. And when he purchased this farm, I got all excited. I flipped out. And he's like, "Why are you so excited about this?" And I'm like, "You don't understand. You have one of the most incredible water sources anywhere." So this water comes from Canada, north part of New York, Vermont, travels underneath the ground. So it's getting mineralized.
Highly mineralized. Yeah.
Highly mineralized.
Highly mineralized.
And then leaks out in West Barnstable and creates a river on a sandbar.
Nice.
Cape Cod is a sandbar. It's just a giant sandbar.
Yeah.
And here you have a freshwater river bubbling out of the sand, and it blows into Barnstable Harbor. And so when I explained to him that the water source, he was like, "Well, yeah, this is like the oldest trout farm, in the United States." I'm like, "Well, obviously they were really smart because they realized how incredibly valuable that water is."
Right.
So I immediately went down. I don't think he even had closed on the property yet. And I started taking water samples. I started collecting the fish manure because he and I'd worked together on a number of other aquaculture facilities. There was one in Pennsylvania that I worked on where the gentleman had a wonderful farm, but there was some issues with the filters. There was, he had a lot of anaerobic pockets. Now he was selling his tilapia in the live market. So basically clients would come in, they look at the fish tank, they'd pick, "Oh, I want that blue one or that one with a black stripe."
Yeah.
And the guy would catch the fish, fillet it, and then sell it to him.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, it's very important that the fish look good.
Yeah.
So I explained to Bill, I'm like, "Hey, let me tweak some of these things. Let's work together because I want your manure." And he knew, he was smart. He goes, "I know what you're after."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we worked together, cleaned up his sand filters, and got rid of some of his bubblers and some other things that weren't functioning correctly. And sure as shit, the fish came out beautiful, like what I figured out when I was a kid. And then he was just like, "Wow, man, I'm getting more money for my fish." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the goal."
Yeah.
So
the minerals are alone,
right. And again, he had a great water source, but it was just a matter of cleaning up the anaerobic zones so that they were all aerobic and therefore created extra fish health.
Yeah.
So, that was part of it. And then, I'd mentioned Keith back then and Bill knew Keith. And so we started geeking out. And then when he bought this place, the first thing I did was I drove down there and I microscoped what was going on. And I'm like, "Dude, you have diatoms. Freshwater diatoms." Diatoms are badass. They are little oxygen generators.
Yeah.
So if you can get diatoms back into the soil, now you have a system to produce oxygen for the biology so that they can create the CO2 to release to the plant, and on and on and on. And the cycle. So, to have diatoms in a product, living diatoms, is, it's invaluable. It's priceless. I mean, I don't know anybody else that has that in a living product. To be honest with you, I don't think there's anybody that has living protozoa in a product.
Yeah. No, they're all either they sell a product. I don't have it with me, but a lot of the products are dead. When you buy stuff, there's nothing in it. Absolutely nothing in it. They say, "Oh, helps bring the soil to life." I'm going, shouldn't it be alive first, right?
Absolutely right. And in my work at Rodale to figure out how to create a shelf-stable product, I did a tremendous amount of experimenting with pHs, with freezing, all these different methods to keep the organisms alive, put them in suspension, or we call cyst form, so that I can ship them anywhere. They can sit on the shelf and not die. So that took a lot of work, but in understanding that stuff, that's kind of what led me down the path to the processes that I do. Now, Harmonize is highly unstable because it is
Yeah.
in liquid form.
Yeah.
So if you don't use it, it will go anaerobic, and then you'll have a problem. All of the other products are shelf stable. So I did concentrate on selling them over the last 10 years.
What other products? What were the other? Is that
Well, the other
foam
ones,
mixture?
yeah, well, the other one is Rejuvenate, which is a instant compost tea.
Yeah.
So basically, you take this, you add it to water, bubble it if you can. If you can't, you stir it, agitate it, add a tiny bit of molasses, and I do mean a tiny bit,
Yeah.
just to grow out the bacteria, so that you pull all of the protozoa out of cyst.
I would
and they
use
start
filtered
working.
water. I would use filtered water.
Yeah, the nice thing about all of these products is they're tremendously high in humic acid.
Yeah.
So you know how to stabilize town water, and that's
Yeah.
to use a little bit of humic acid.
Yeah.
So you might lose a few of the organisms, but for the most part, they're going to be fine, even if you are using town water, because they will stabilize. And so anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, but my other three products, Rejuvenate's the instant compost tea. Alliance is designed to mix into potting soils or into seed starts to really get them acclimated to a biological system. One of the things that we've learned over the number of 4 or 5 last years was that seeds are biointelligent. They have endophytic bacteria on their coating. They have actual living bacteria inside the seed shell. And so if you expose them to a synthetic environment, you lose all of those critical organisms for the plant. So the design behind Alliance was to take inert potting soil, mix a little Alliance in there, so that seed, as it opens up, is being exposed to that critical biology to support the whole system. So, and then the last product is Fulvic Acid. Now, Fulvic Acid in itself is an amazing product, and I'm pretty sure this is the only product, again, on the market that's made with living plants. So I'm taking live plants, I'm composting them, I'm pressing this product and squeezing out the fulvic acid. Most fulvic and humic acids are basically mined lenadite or brown coal, which are then introduced to acids and bases to break them up and make them liquefy. And that's the problem, because now you have a residual acid or a residual base in your product. So, again, I have, a purely plant-derived fulvic acid and humic acid that has not been exposed to any harsh chemicals.
Are your products on the market?
I sell them a lot to clients I consult. I don't I'm not in advertising. I'm not I'm not on Amazon.
I want. Hello, you can consult me. I want.
And Leighton, it says on your website that you actually can address the needs of the particular client and their
Yes.
plants, and you can manipulate the product to suit them.
That gets complicated, but basically what it is that in understanding dirt, which is inert, there's no living things in it.
Oil.
Yeah. I call it dead.
Right, dead. So there's different types of dirt. There's compacted anaerobic dirt, and then there's arid or anoxic dirt. So based on what I see in the client's soil or issues, I decide whether I'm going to use a bridge product. And by bridge, I mean taking it from anaerobic to aerobic. Like, I can't spray a highly aerobic compost tea or compost extract onto a anaerobic soil, because I'm wasting a tremendous amount of my product because they can't live in that environment. No. So what I'll do is I'll make a transition product. I'll make a product that is what I call on the gray line. So it's like successionary. You can't take a conifer and plant it in a swamp. It's not going to live. There's a fungal to bacteria ratio. There's other requirements. So soil is the same thing as plants. And so basically, in a situation where I have an anaerobic soil that's compacted, I'll use a less stabilized version of the product, Harmonize, which is basically, so when I take the fish waste, I aerobically stabilize it to a certain level. So in a situation where it's anaerobic, I would only stabilize it partially. So I'd still have rotifers, stem ciliates or stalk ciliates, and some of these other, less aggressive ciliate forms, so that they will help to aerate, break up compaction, and get ready for the aerobic installation. So that's one of the things that I would consider a bridge product. And I have a number of other ones based on what the client's actual needs are.
Of course, you know, you've had experience with dealing with clients, and you know that a lot of these places have been highly chemicalized for eight decades. I mean, these people are constantly adding chemicals all the time, not to mention the chemicals in the water, you know, so it's like really, really super dead. And my experience was when I first started to try to bring them back to life, it actually releases a lot of these chemicals. A lot of the plants would get burned up. And we'll go, well, what the heck happened there? It was tied up in the soil because it was like toxic. I mean, massive amounts of chemicals bound up in there. And you bring anything alive that starts breaking up, it just starts to spit like you have a disease, right? It just comes out, right? Go ahead, Deborah.
No, it purges itself.
It purges, right. I started using products like a Nitron 835. You ever hear Nitron 835? It's an enzyme product.
Yeah. Yep.
And I use another product called AgriGrow, which is also an enzyme product. And
are
these
those alive, Andy, or those alive?
No, these are enzymes.
Oh.
And enzymes breaks things up. That's what they're supposed to do. One of the things they're supposed to do is break up the content, you know, whether it be whatever type of metals are bound together, breaks them up, and then allows the living organisms to get at it. And so I started using those because my biggest problem has always been exactly what's going. That's why I get compost. I try to get compost as a way. When I made compost, I made so you would have loved it under a microscope. You would go, holy cow, right? Because I was really nuts. I would go like llama manure, rabbit manure, steer manure, goat, sheep, chicken, all the different kinds. Because when I studied the biodynamic system, I realized animals, they each have different microbials in their stomach. Let's blend them all together. Let's get one big giant, you know, mixture of stuff. And some of them will survive. Some of them do really well, others won't. Because I couldn't figure out exactly which would do well. I mean, people's property is so different, it's just across the street from each other.
Yeah.
You know, when I do a lab, when I send it off to a lab test, right? I used to do one. And then I realized, no, I got to do like 10 different samples on the property, and they're all be different. The pH should be different. All kind, and it's like, and it has to do with, I guess, the way they build it. When they, you know, when they first build something, they whack off the soil, take it away, and then bring construction sand, and then they bring their own soil, you know, which is totally awesome. And so the whole, it's a really unique, because then you have plants that are from all over the world that are grown, that are developed under those conditions with those microbes coming over here. You know what I mean? And so you have to try to get a blend of different types of microbes so that each plant can deal with what they want to deal with. It's a very complicated scenario, you know, because as an arborist, I see a tree, I see a palm tree. That palm tree is not even native to here. You know, a lot of these palm trees here, not native to here. But they've evolved over the centuries, different microorganisms in their roots, different ecological system down there. And then you put them in this environment, right? And it's no wonder that they have all kinds of diseases, all kinds of pests, because they just cannot, they just can't function. They can't re-evolve again, right? To handle this scenario. But go ahead, I didn't want to get carried away. Sorry.
It said on your website that you actually would turn your compost by hand. So you can have a machine do it. And then you would add your fish byproduct, which it sounds like Andy wasn't adding to his stuff.
I use a different type source of manure. The fish is one source of manure.
I see.
Yeah, and you know what? I love the way the manures you chose. All of those would be considered cold manures, except for the chicken manure, which is hot, and the cow, which is hot.
Yeah.
But otherwise, those are great manures to mix in. And personally, I just use plant-based compost, and obviously the worm castings are, organic worm castings. And then the fish manure, again, I stabilize depending on what my application is. If it's a highly aerobic situation, then I will stabilize it all the way. And a lot of this early work was done with James Sotillo, because he was hired to deal with engineered fields. Now, engineered soils like sports turf, golf courses, football fields, they're all built with 90% sand, 10% organic matter. Now, it's very difficult to get a biological to take hold when you don't have organic matter. And of course, these fields got the stuffing kicked out of them because they would use nitrogen. And in order for the microbes to process that nitrogen, they have to burn carbon. So they have to eat some carbon to get the energy to break the nitrate down and release it back to the plant. So what you end up doing is you end up trading your soil organic matter for the organisms to consume that so that they can release the nitrogen. So these fields were down to less than 1% organic matter, and all they had was crabgrass, weeds, and all these problems because they weren't dealing with it appropriately. So we would use Harmonize in that application, and what would take place is the Harmonize, because it's paramagnetic, would start pulling those sand particles together and bonding them into microaggregates, which would then eventually turn to macroaggregates. Now, those microaggregates can support biological life, and as long as you allow the plant to slough off its roots, now you're back to building carbon. You're back to building that organic matter in the soil. So it was very easy to I think he would do 2 applications of Harmonize, and these fields would bounce back. And then it was like, all right, whatever you do not use synthetic fertilizers.
And guess what they do? Right back to the,
well,
right.
It usually took a little while. A lot of times these big parks we worked on. I mean, we did the St. Louis Arches, Battery Park, all the piers in New York City, crazy monster projects. And the biggest problem was after we finished building them or getting them ready over the course of a year or two, then the government would step in and say, okay, now that we own this project, it's complete, we're going to put this superintendent in charge of the maintenance. Now the superintendents all get trained NPK. And so unfortunately, a lot of these parks went back to synthetic. And it's just sad because we put our heart and soul, our lifeblood into these things to get them up and running. And then a few years later, they're back to trashed again. And
at least in my business, the customers are really into it. I have customers I've had 20, 30 years now, and they won't. And their biggest problem is the gardeners, right? They show up. I said, excuse me, what are you doing with this stuff in your truck? Well, we're going to fertilize. No, you're not. So I realized a long time ago, the gardeners, all they're going to do is mow and blow. They're not going to fertilize. They're not going to do anything. And every once in a while, they try sneaking something. Yep. They have this thing. They have to use this chemical. I go, stop it. And I tell the customer, you got it. And you know what they do? They fire the gardener. I had one customer going to 3 different gardening companies, big giant companies, and they constantly keep trying to sneak in fertilizers into the property.
Well, you know why they do that? It makes the grass grow so fast that they have to cut it more. So
is that what
literally
keeps it working?
Yeah, it's job security. The more shit you throw on it, the more work you have to do, and it's sad. It's going against the very thing that we're trying to do is fix the planet, not make it worse. And the fact that you used enzymes and then saw everything explode is a prime example of that. And that's where, if you use like a product like Harmonize, which will now bind up all of those goodies and tie them up in the bacteria, now they can slowly release back as the plant wants them to, instead of being force fed.
I really like earthworms. I tell people 2 of the richest compost on the planet is earthworm doo-doo and elephant manure.
Yep.
Okay.
Rodale was doing some work with elephant manure.
Oh yeah, Brigham Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus will call me up and says, Andy, we hear you like manure, and we have these elephants, and maybe you can come and take some of the manure away, right? And the guy, they had like 20 elephants, plop, 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 plop. They would pay. Didn't I tell you to clean up the manure? By the time it gets to the other end of manures, so I had the elephants walk on a bridge and shoot poo-poo right on my truck. The problem with elephant manure is that if you don't work it, it gets hard. Like you have to. So I would cut it. So I would get a chainsaw and cut blocks out. and those blocks, if you look on the scope, highly rich, highly microbial active.
Yeah, a lot
really,
of fiber,
really
too.
wonderful. The same thing with the earthworm castings. I used to do a worm farm. I made my own worm farm, and then I would spin them around so keep the worms together. I'll tell the worms, okay, guys, we're going to do this, and that the earthworm casting is one of moving here. I haven't been able to really do that because earthworm casting. I would use paramagnetic rock dust.
Yep.
Okay.
Colorado.
I get 14 different varieties of rock dust, and about 8 of them are paramagnetic. And I found I didn't know. I don't see. I go by. I do something. I go, wow, right? And I don't understand entirely because I had experience with paramagnetism with scientists. And when I would give a talk, they would say, Phil Callahan was really into paramagnetism because it's also in England and the way they did I told you about the towers of power. Those structures were paramagnetic, and the fields around them. You fly in the plane, it'd be like desert, except for there's one spot. And the cows would be all there, and it'd be green and luscious, and not any more water than everywhere else, you know. But it has something to do with the paramagnetism, and I don't exactly understand it, but I do know that it's very important to have that.
Well, I can explain it to you if you want.
Go for it.
All right. So what paramagnetic does is it pulls these particles together, like I said. So as these, soil particles come back together, they form these microaggregates. Now, the microaggregates themselves become into little microclimates, like little condominiums.
Yeah.
And as they grow into macro aggregates, they get more diverse. And again, now they're holding a tremendous amount of water. They're holding usually it's either positive or negative on the inside, and then the opposite on the outside. So you have all of these magnetic forces working together. I mean, I'd love to go into the fourth phase of water, but we definitely don't have time to go down that rabbit hole.
Oh yeah, yes we do.
All right. So if you understand the fourth phase of water, it's basically called easy water. So it stands for exclusion zone. And that water is in the exclusion zone is highly negatively charged. And so the bulk water that's next to it is highly positive charged. Now, on a cellular level, so down to a single bacteria, the water inside that bacteria is 100% easy water. There's no bulk water in there. So it's all negatively charged. And that's how that organism functions, because now it can pull in positively charged ions and actually, use those as food sources. The other thing that the easy water does is allows for easy transcommunication within a cell. So one side of the cell will know what the other side of the cell is doing via communications, because the water is so pure that it has nothing else in it. Part of the understanding is that in the easy zone, you actually push all chemicals and or synthetics or organics out of that system. So I recommend the listeners go and go to YouTube, TED Talks, fourth phase of water, to understand more about this.
Is that the same as structured water?
Yes, exactly. And I mean, interestingly enough, I don't remember whether I read it on somewhere or I saw it on one of the TED Talks, but bottom line is these heart doctors were trying to understand what the pressure of our heart is and how it can function to get blood up to our brains, down to our feet, and then the whole circle. And what came about it was that a lot of these blood cells have to squeeze through capillaries that are half their size. So they realized that the power of the heart was not sufficient enough to move the water through our veins, or move the blood through our veins. So what is it then? Well, you know what it is?
Magnetism.
Water, right? Magnetism. So it's like you put a positive charge on the outside of that capillary and a negative charge on the inside of that blood cell, and now it just magnetically moves through, kind of like a railgun works.
So when I was young, I started doing Bach flower remedies.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with Bach flower remedies?
Yeah.
So and then I moved on to gem elixirs, and gem elixirs are I use structured water, and I learned how to write to structured water. I learned that you can take a certain type of frequency added to the structured water. It has to be structured water, because otherwise you can't write to it. For some reason, you can write to structured water. Did you ever read this book, Images? It's about crystals. It has a picture of
the gentleman that froze the water and talked to it. And
no, that was a different one. It was he would do an electron microscope of like a snowflake.
The crystals.
Images in Water, I think it was called.
Yep.
Something like that, right? And they would meditate to it and change the structure of the water. Then he would learn to write.
Yell at it.
He would write love on it, change the structure of the water. Right, so he got a hold of me because he heard I was doing gem elixirs. I take a ruby, for example. A ruby has a certain frequency. I learned how to take that frequency and put it into the structure of the water, and then you drink the water.
Mm-hmm.
And your body would know what to do with that frequency. See, and it's the same thing with plants. The same thing with the soil. The same thing with trees. All living things one of the reasons why paramagnetism, in my opinion, why magnetism is so interesting is because it absorbs all these cosmic rays. These cosmic rays go through the earth, and this paramagnetism, they absorb these rays and they give it back. That's the reason why. Right. That's the reason why we take in trace minerals. You think it's going to be building our body. We take in trace minerals because we need these particular type of energies. And I haven't really, I'm not a scientist in the sense that I can actually do these things. I love it when I talk to a scientist like you, forever. They can say, break it down. This is what happens. I'm just the kind of guy that I do dowsing. I used to do dowsing. Okay.
Yeah.
And my mother would give me a stick. I said, the heck with a stick. I just walk around and feel for it. I don't need the stick. See? So I'm a kind of intuitive guy that would feel the energy, deal with energy. I'm actually an ordained monk. Okay. And I deal with energy. And to me, when I go to that's why I love your liquid, because your liquid has this really cool energy. I can spray it and I go, wow, nice. It's the energy changes. Yep. And then the plants and the bugs, because I learned a long time ago, the bugs key into this energy too. Yep. See, yep. And it's the opposite. The bugs key into it. If you don't have the energy, they say that plant is sick. I'm going to go after it.
Absolutely.
See?
Absolutely.
Really cool.
And Deborah, just so you understand, like, why they call it the fourth phase of water, it's because when water is liquid and it's getting ready to freeze and become a solid, it has to go through the process of easy. So it dumps all of its minerals, otherwise it can't structurally stack up. Easy water is actually H3O2. It's not even H2O.
No.
So it has to go through that phase before it could become a solid. And that's one of those things that if you don't really dive deep down the understanding of why it's called the fourth phase, you'll miss that piece. So it's really, water is liquid or vapor, right? Liquid, easy, solid, and they go in that way. So when you use ice in your drink, you're actually drinking easy water. If you squeeze plants, like you don't juice them, but you press them, that's all pure easy water. That's why when you walk in the sand in bare feet, you have this great feeling. You're actually encouraging the easy water that you're picking up on your feet and in your skin to pull into your system on a form that is cellular available.
All living things have evolved to use easy water.
Absolutely.
Use this fourth. And if you're healthy, you have access to it. If you're not healthy, you don't have access to it.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing. I equated with animals, and insects have evolved right along, because I use a refractometer. You know refractometer,
yep, absolutely.
Right? Okay, so a refractometer is a tool I show customers. I say, look in here, and you'll see the Brix reading of it. And to me, the Brix reading, because when I started using a refractometer, wasn't so much. See, I learned that sugars the plants use sugar as a way to transform, to take minerals and transmit it throughout their bodies. I learned that, okay? And so I learned that the higher the Brix level, the more the minerals, the more, and it's called the fuzzy rule. If you ever look through a refractometer, you see this line, and there's a black and white, and there's little numbers there, that line there. Usually, if it's really sharp, the more fuzzy it is, the more minerals it has. And I always say, well, how does that work? It's a structured water. Right?
Amen.
Why do you say carrot juice is so much better if you press it than if you do the same to it?
Right. Because you're getting all the easy water out of it.
Right. And I studied this German scientist who he invented a way. First of all, he did a way to take logs, but he did logging. He invented a way that the logs would float on the water. He had a little thing that he made, and he did vortex in the water. He realized that when the water does this vortex thing, it changes the structure of the water. And when it does that, then he actually made a device that actually vortexes the water, and it creates a structured water. And and scientists are going, what the heck, right? What the heck's going on? They're still trying to figure out, and to me, it's an amazing healing properties, not just for humans. I mean, insects, they have evolved specifically, like, that's why you have a certain pest attack certain plants, right? They don't go after other plants. They have evolved to certain plants. Because throughout their evolution, they learned, they have like a built-in refractometer. That plant does not have the minerals, I'm going after it. So to me, I realized there's what happens is when I used to look at plants, I say, well, why? Because I did my first year, my very first house call I did when I was like in the 6th grade. Lady says, come to my house, I have an ant problem, right? And ants are amazing creatures. All these ants, to me, I love ants because they tune in, they have this ability to tune in, you know, and they see, and so they were attacking this. The lady said, I have an ant problem. So there's 2 trees on either side of the house. One side is massive amounts of ants were going, what was happening, they were climbing up the tree, attacking the tree, falling down on the house, right? Literally, they were falling on their roofs, they were all over the place. But the tree on the other side, not a single ant. I'm going, what's wrong with this picture? Why here and why not over there? And it turns out, and after many years, it has to do with carbohydrates, has to do with simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. Pests, bugs cannot digest complex carbohydrates. And if you're healthy, the tree's healthy, the plant's healthy, guess what to produce? Complex carbohydrates.
Spot on. And
Yeah.
they use their antenna as a way
Yeah.
to read the frequency of the tree.
Yeah.
You know, people get mad and they say, well, I have weeds or I have
Right.
pests. I'm like, no,
No.
those things are there to tell you something.
Yeah,
The weeds are
right.
to tell you what your deficiencies are.
Right,
Because
right.
they're actually pulling it up and they're
That's
making
right.
the soil ready
That's-
for the next successionary plant.
That's right.
And then the insects do the same thing. They say, hey,
Yeah.
that plant is not consumable. Nothing should be eating that plant. No
when
other
it's,
animal.
when it's
We're
food
gonna
for the bugs, it's not food for us.
Anything, right? So they
Right.
turn it into compost. So,
Right,
that so they're doing us a favor.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of listening to nature, not fighting it.
I used to give a walk in Putney, Vermont. I have a group of people walk through, and I would tell them, you can tell the pH, what's in the soil, or what's not in the soil by the weeds that grow in the soil. Certain weeds pull up iron from deep down inside, and when they die, they give it back again. So you can tell that soil is deficient in iron because that plant
Is harvesting it.
right, exactly right. And the same thing with weeds in people's yards, right? You know, and I had another lady on not too long ago. She does the biome in the stomach, right?
Okay.
The biome, and there's the same thing going on in our stomach that's going on in the soil. We have, I don't know if you heard about. Maybe I said it before that we decided one day we're going to get up from the ground, form a stomach, you know, make a moving stomach so we can move around. And for some reason, we seem to think that we're better than everything else. We lost contact with the soil. We lost contact with the soil. I mean, my favorite thing as a kid, I was actually eating the stuff. I was sticking it in the ground. I go, and put my hand, and to this day, I still stick my hand in the ground. I go, oh, it's amazing. There's a guy who does nothing but tell people walk around barefooted.
Yeah.
That's the connection.
Heard
That's
that.
the grounding.
You know,
That's the formation of easy water.
And what are trees? Giant antennas.
Mm-hmm.
Giant antennas. And they take it and they put it into the, you know, they absorb it. And if the tree is sick, it's not grounded. If it's not grounded, it's not getting the trace minerals. That's one of the things trace minerals do, grounds us. I mean, I'm just going from my practical experience here. I have no idea why all this happens or any of this stuff, but it's just, this is just the way that I've been growing up and dealing with. As a young kid, I had 150 customers. The biggest thing I always had to deal with the people is that, no, you're not going to use the Roundup thing.
Right.
No, you're not going to. I said, Roundup is cocaine for the soil. Duh.
Yep.
Miracle Grow.
Right?
Miracle Grow is.
You're not supposed to say that because we're giving you.
Okay.
But you know they have I told you about the organic product that they have now. You know they're one of the biggest, largest supplier for pot growers, and pot is another product that you would think that because it's actually a weed. It's actually a weed we learned to smoke, right? And to me, weeds are I go after weeds. I eat those things. I said, well, iron, I'll eat that. You know, sometimes weeds are toxic, so you have to be real careful. That's how I got into mushrooms, because mushrooms tell me the mycelium is there, that it's alive. Mm-hmm. See, I don't do psilocybin mushrooms at customers' home. I do edible. I get the spores and I plant them. I literally make a little micro colony. So I use I call them tree beds. I started off calling them tree beds. These are paramagnetic clay drain pipes. Okay, these are pipes that are paramagnetic. And so I would make my structures inside of it. I would do compost. I would do whatever. I get all this bands of compost along with the minerals or the rock dust, put them together in the right environment, put a drip, a filter system with a drip, get a little bit of water through it, and re-microize this, bring back to, you know, basically have a little, like you said, it was like a apartment, you know, like, you had a what is it when you have different levels? I forget now.
Oh, you mean tropha?
Well, it's basically
or horizons, soil horizons.
Different organisms live at different levels of the soil.
Yeah.
Right, and when they destroy that, they're like tear it all up, and they go, and they don't work very well together. They all have their own little things that they do at different levels. I realized that. I realized that a long time ago, and that's why I try to incorporate many different levels of microorganisms into the soil. But people are very destructive. We just go around destroying things left and right. And that's
so Andy, a friend of mine, Tina Trout, who's on Instagram is La Grows, makes these things that she calls fuzzy balls.
Fuzzy balls.
All right, and so they're clay, they're paramagnetic, and she adds all of these crazy ingredients into it to make it like an EM1, so an effective microorganism.
Yeah.
And then these balls literally grow this soil-borne yeast out of them, and they become fuzzy.
Yeah.
And so she and I been playing together, and I asked her to send me some so I could experiment with them and see what happens and how things react to them. And at the end of it, I was like, wow, Tina, these things are amazing. I recommend that you sell them to people and then tell them to take these balls and take a cheese grater and just walk around and cheese grade them. So that you're spreading it out over a large area. Because right now she's like taking the balls and saying, just plant them in the garden.
Plant them in the garden, yeah.
Right, and that's fine if it's next to a tree. But if you're trying to spread it over a bunch of plants, it's not going to get from here to the other side of the room. It's just going to take too long. So that's a wonderful product that I've encouraged her to really push into the industry, into the market. Because
I love to have her as a guest.
Yeah, definitely. I'll let her know.
I want to have as many people doing this as guests on our show because, for a long time I thought I was alone doing this. And now I realize.
Tell me about it.
That's not.
Tell me about it.
and then I realized that there are little pockets of people all over the place because we're not inventing the wheel. We're just
following the orders.
Exactly. We're just doing what we're supposed to be doing. Yeah. And it's like we're not creating something new. It's like it's very simple if you're in touch with nature, if you understand, when I do with my compost, I actually see the mycorrhiza and everything growing in the compost. That's why I spread it out all over the property. And to me, when I do the colonization, I usually do it within the root systems of trees because when the tree is sick, that's where I wanted to concentrate it. But then I try to say, well, this is the corner of the property saying, over here, I want something.
Yeah, don't forget about me, right?
Right, exactly, right. So that's why I developed a spray. And to me, it's wonderful that I can get something alive and spray it over the whole property.
Go ahead, Deborah.
How does the normal person like myself get a hold of your products? Because I noticed on your website you had a contact form and you had to answer so many different kinds of questions, and then you can get your newsletter as well, which I'd like to do.
Yeah, I to be honest with you, I'm not a real tech guy, and at one point I did have someone helping me with answering emails and so forth. So at this point, I just say, look, hit me up. I'm on Instagram, Kingdom Aquaponics LLC. You can find me on Facebook. My number is on the website. Just call me, text me, email me.
What's the number?
My cell phone number is 508-935-6800.
And the website?
And the website is kingdomaquaponicsllc.com. And my email is Leighton so that's LEIGHTON @kingdomaquaponicsllc.com.
How come we're not friends on Facebook?
I just started getting back on Facebook because of the demand, but I haven't posted anything in probably 10 years.
Oh yeah, they think
because my kids, once my kids got off of it, I really didn't have a need for it, and I'm kind of concerned about the whole privacy and
Yeah.
you know, these analytics and you know the games that they're playing. And
Only reason why I'm on Facebook is my name is there, because if I don't use my name,
right,
somebody else will show up as the invisible gardener.
right, exactly.
I got this lady who tried to sue me from England, saying you can't use the name Invisible Gardener. And as a matter of fact, I want that website. I want your invisiblegardener.com website. She has the rights to it. No, I don't. I have the trademark on it in 1970. Okay, but I don't have a worldwide trademark. So in China, there's an Invisible Gardener, in England, right? So that's the only reason why I have Facebook, just to protect my name there, so to speak. You know.
Right.
But other than that, I don't find it very useful at all. Even though we're streaming right now to Facebook, and I got maybe 5,000 followers. It's useless to have so many followers because they don't actually follow you. They're not. You see 5,000 people on this show watching now? No. So it's like they follow. It's like a robotic thing, right? A robot, like a tweeter. You know, I got a couple of thousand Twitter followers. I said, dude, are you watching my show at all? Or are you just hitting the follow button just because we want to have as many followers and you don't even paying attention to anything that's going on?
Well, it's overwhelming too.
Yeah,
I mean, there's just so much out there, and yeah, so I just do on my profile, I say, you know, I'm just trying. And that's all we can do. I mean, there's only one of me, you know, I've got, I don't know, a few thousand followers here, a couple thousand there, but, you know, and I do the best I can to keep up with, you know, people that are looking for me or trying to get a hold of me. But, you know, I always just say, please be patient. Like there's only 24 hours in a day and I need to sleep a little.
Yeah, you sleep. I get about 4 hours of sleep and that's too much.
Yeah, I don't know how you handle it, brother.
That's too much.
I'm crazy busy to the point where like if I don't get, you know, 7-8 hours of sleep, I'm a disaster the next day. You know, it's just because I think it's because I burn too many calories, you know, going as fast as I can. You know, people say thinking doesn't burn energy.
It does.
Bullshit.
When I was in the service, I was taught to do power sleep because as a pilot, you know, you say, okay, we're going to take a break now. You take 15 minutes, will give me 4 hours of sleep, 4 hours of deep sleep. And that's what I do. You know, that's how I do. Last night I went to bed at 11:30. I got up at 2 o'clock. Okay, I'm up. And what do you do at 2 o'clock? You meditate. You chant. That's all you can do is you meditate. You know, you can't do anything because you'll wake people up. You know, right? You can't play. I write music, but I can't do it.
Can't play it.
Can't. I have my headphones on.
How did the two of you meet? Did you?
Oh, this is a great story. So
he tracked me down.
Yeah, I've been traveling around out here, you know, since I crash landed 2 days before the lockdown. We moved in and then they locked the state down. Wow. So I'd still been doing a little bit of local traveling and connecting with people that are like-minded here. And I was, you know, down in Malibu at the Malibu Fig Farm, you know, doing some work with one of their gardeners there, Nikki, and you know, I just started hearing about this invisible gardener.
Did you?
Yeah, right. And then I heard it, you know, up in Ojai. Well, there's this guy doing what you're doing. He's called the Invisible Gardener. And I thought it was like that wasn't his name. That's just what they called him. So finally, I think it was a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago now. I don't know.
It's been at least a month. Yeah.
Yeah. So I finally just said, all right, I'm going to Google Invisible Gardener, see if there's a guy out there. And then sure as shit, like I Googled him on Sunday and I'm like, oh my God, there really is a guy named Invisible Gardener. So I called him on Monday morning, just going, I'm just going to call him. You know, I'm going to be open here. He answered the phone.
I was waiting. I've tuned into it, you know.
And the funny thing was, he said to me, he goes, you know, I just told someone the other day, I feel like I'm the only one out here. And I'm like, well, I felt like that for a while. And maybe that's why I called you. Maybe I heard your signal. I heard your signal.
I think we should form an organization of invisible gardeners, so to speak, because I tell people we're all invisible gardeners. You know, I got the name Invisible Gardener because the real invisible gardener is the invisible microbes in the soil.
Yeah,
that's the real invisible gardener. It's not me. I'm just their helper. I'm just trying to keep them alive. I'm trying to bring them back, to health. You know, because that's the whole key. And people just don't get it. Gardeners, you think the gardener will be guarding the soil, right? They would be protecting this. No, they're one of the worst people for the soil. You
They've
know,
they've been programmed. It's not their fault. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Deborah.
But one of your titles is a soil biologist, right? I mean,
Yeah.
is that a part of a degree, or is that just what you call yourself? Because I've heard Andy say that too.
Yeah, you know, so I don't have a formal college degree with letters behind me, but what
Boy,
I did,
you sure know what you're talking about.
well,
Phil.
I spent 18 months in intensive, you know, one-on-one with Dr. Leighton and all these other top scientists down there. So in many ways, I have more than a PhD because, you know, I was like one-on-one immersed into this world of soil biology, and to a point where, you know, I've spent thousands of hours behind the microscope.
Guys, the great God said we can take 2 hours doing our show, so we ain't stopping.
Oh,
Thank you. Okay, so we ain't stopping for another hour. Okay,
so you're not
so
going to do the cosmic spaceship?
well, this is, you know, to me, cosmic spaceship is just music and artwork. Okay, so that's something that's a hobby I do. I started about 5 years ago. You don't even want to know how I got started, because I actually, okay, I'll tell you, I did too much LSD. Next thing you know, I'm writing music and doing artwork the same night. Okay, I bought this program called Acid. Maybe I should get that program, right? And it's called Acid. Literally, it's called Acid. It's a music program that uses a paintbrush. See, I hear colors and see sound. Okay, so when I saw they have a paintbrush, so you can actually paint. Tell it, okay, I want a certain instrument. You can paint the tone and the music. I go, whoa, that's and painting. Then all of a sudden, I started painting. I got this other program. See, I play games a lot. I'm actually called Captain Crazy in this world that I play. Okay, I've been doing games for many years, and I actually found it as a tool to talk to kids. So I run this planet. Okay, so I'm going to just tell you real fast. So I run this planet. This planet is basically, and what it is a game that you can visit other planets. It's an open world. It's really, really cool. But I'm the oldest. So just about 2 years ago, it turns. I'm 72 now, right? I mean 72. So we're talking, and because we text a lot, and I said, well, one of the things I like about games is that they have this communication system really, really down pat. So while you're playing, but that's up to you. If you want to only do one program hour per week or not, okay, I am. That's what my guy's saying. Yeah, I like to do 2 hours today, and I don't care about the cosmic spaceship. We can, but so the communication system is really cool, because what I do, see, one of the things aside from all this is that I actually work with people. I help heal them. I do anyway. Their spirit guides come to me, and then they connect. It's like your spirit guide connect to me. That's how we connect. Not that you need healing, but it's basically that's how I connect. So I saw this one. We're typing, and I said, well, there's an easy way to communicate with each other. Let's see what this chat is all about. There's an easy way to communicate. That's up to you. Oh, I see. I'm guessing, but now it's just actually 10 by 1, both hours. Oh, so I'm going to play it. See, and that is now to be served. Okay, so by doing cosmic won't be possible. Okay, I don't know what he's saying. So why don't you just cut it, Don, and tell me what it is you're saying. I can't read fast enough. Don, you there? Don's saying something, a lot of stuff over here. I haven't finished idea what he's saying, because he's saying, doing the cosmic, but doing the cosmic, I would keep.
Probably putting another show on the other station.
Right. So he says, right, exactly. He says, I would keep Don't Panic It's Organic going, but doing Cosmic Spaceship won't be possible. I know that. That hour is now reserved by Ted Mayer starting January. Okay, that's fine, because, we're not going to do the show here anymore. I'm moving on. I didn't want to bring it up or anything. I've been doing it here for 8 years or something like that. I actually been doing a radio show since 1970, okay?
Wow.
And you keep moving on and moving on. The universe just keeps dragging me along. And starting in January, my partner, I have a lady partner, her name is Michelle. I told you about her. She is an amazing woman, Kundalini master, okay? Really, she knows energy, but she's going to take the Invisible Gardener to the next level, because I'm just a crazy guy, right? My marketing skills are really bad. My social skills are even worse. I was married for 41 years, right? We don't go to parties. We don't do, because I can't eat any of the food. I go to the party, I'm looking, I eat something, I go home, I'm sick for days and days. I go, oh, why did I eat that crap? Right? I'm sorry, but that's what it is. But he says, but that's up to you. If you wish to do only one program hour per week or not, I am not guessing. I'm guessing, but just asking. Ted might want both. Hey, so the bottom line is we can actually stay here another hour. I think that's what he's saying. I'm not really sure. But
are you moving on though?
Yeah. So the thing about this game is that they have a way to actually communicate while you're playing, right? You have headphones on, you can actually talk. Because a lot of times, I one of the things I do is I rescue people from aliens being eaten up. Oh my God, the spider in the key to my leg, they're killing me. I said, first of all, it's a game. So like there's one, it's a survival game, okay? So like when I first started playing, I died like 10 times in 5 minutes. You come back and you get eaten to get killed again. So I started talking to this one person. She's like, little voice. I said, how old are you? I'm 13. I go, you're 13 and you built it because you have to build engineer ships. You have to do it according to the law of gravity. So if the ship's too big and you have very little thrust, you ain't going anywhere. You can't steer, you can't do anything. This girl, 13-year-old, built this massive destroyer that knocked the heck out of anybody in the game. She was like really badass, right? And she's 13. So it turns out that she was like at home really bad. Nobody would talk to her. Her parents were all bad and all this stuff. She was like, you're a bad girl, all this stuff. So we ended up talking. And one day I hear this voice, hello, I'm her mother. You're her mother. Who are you? Well, I'm Captain Crazy. Well, how old are you? I'm 70. At that time I was like, what? 69. You're 69. You're talking to my 13-year-old girl. You old dirty old man. I said, lady, she came to my planet. The bottom line is I have about I told her, you're an amazing kid. What you did there, 20-year-old kids can't do. As a matter of fact, I learned from her. I said, look at my ship. I built this giant ship based upon Babylon 5. It's called, you ever see Babylon 5?
Yeah, sure.
And they have these bad guys, the aliens. They have these battle crab. It's a giant crab, like the legs and everything, big legs. And they would go beat the crap out of everything. So I built a battle crab.
Okay.
And I have, so I was having some engineering problems. Okay, how do you steer this massive thing? How do you can't only have so much thrust. She says, well, you have to do this. She rebuilt it for me.
Wow.
I said, you're an amazing kid. You'll be wonderful. And so the mother says, look, whatever you're doing to my child, keep doing it because she has a self. She's now believes in herself. She's happy and she's going to go engineering. She's going to do all this stuff. So I have about 30 or 40 kids that I talk to on a regular basis. One said, I'm going to die. I say, hey, it's just a game. It's called a survival game. You better learn to survive. That means you got to do something rather than stand there and get eaten by the spiders. Right? Right? And these from all over the world. So I love that. It's really cool. So let's get back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
But you know what, Andy, you bring up a point, and this has been like something I've been focusing on a lot is that look at TikTok.
Yeah.
That has just come out of nowhere. It exploded
Kids.
into this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want to get to them and say, hey, look, tell your parents, I don't want them spraying any more of this crap on my ground.
Yeah.
I want to make my own compost, and I want someone to apply that compost or liquefy it and apply it.
Exactly right.
They're the only ones that are going to be able to get to us that have been programmed.
So I used to give a talk to kids. I used to go dress as an ant. Big ant, right?
Yeah,
and I would sit there and go, hey, hello, boys and girls. And they would say, well, that sounds like Daffy Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse. It sounds like Mickey Mouse. I'm not Mickey Mouse, I'm an ant. So I would tell the adults, all the adults get out of the room. This is just for us kids. And we would talk about the speed of light. We would talk about all kinds of stuff. And I would tell them, you got to go shopping with your parents. You got to turn them in if they start buying crap. If they do something to your soil, to your property, because it's yours, you have to tell mom and dad, I don't want you to use this. Get them involved in it. Get them started. I started my business in the 6th grade. And I was different than most people, see? So that's what we want to do. We want kids who get into gardening the right way.
Right.
Yeah.
Learn about making compost. Learn that the soil is a living thing, that they need to take care of it. And they need to tell their parents, you got to stop this. You got to just stop this because, you know, the whole climate change, what's going on now with the climate, it's really a big, we have done that to ourselves. And the kids are the ones that have to suffer from that. Their kids are going to have to go through this, and they're the ones that need to say, excuse me, like that lady, the Swedish girl.
Oh, Greta Thunberg.
Exactly. So now they have to stand up and say, okay, stop. We've had enough of this. You've had your turn. You're destroying everything. If you keep this up, I won't have a planet to live on. Because it's not the planet that's in trouble. It's all living things on this planet that's in trouble, right? You know,
Absolutely.
we're taking everybody down with us.
No, well, it's not we. It's the system. And unfortunately, you know, I hold these billionaires accountable.
Yeah.
You know, I hold these people that have earned so much money that they can't possibly spend it in their lifetime.
No.
And then they're donating it to build libraries in their name and you know, hospital wings. We don't need more hospital wings. We need more health. We need healthy food, healthy soil, not more cancer treatment places. And you know,
I truly believe that the chemical industry and the medical industry are like,
yeah, they're buddies. They're buddies.
Keep it up because we're busy.
Yeah,
Keep it up because we love it.
And we don't want to. We don't want you to be healed. We just want to maintain you sick so that we can make more money off you.
Doctors are not taught nutrition.
I got 1 week
in nutrition. I got 1 week in nutrition.
And that's the foundation of health. And you're not taught that. You know, again, that's by the pharmaceutical design. I mean, I don't know if you know the story, but the pharmaceutical companies went to all the medical schools way back in the early 1900s and said, hey, we're going to teach you how to use medicine. And they took away all of their herbs. They took away our cannabis, our hemp. They took away everything and said, no, we have a better solution. And therefore, and whatever you do, don't teach nutrition. You don't need nutrition. We have a pill for everything. And that was the beginning of the end of our health. I mean, let's face it, when the government eradicated hemp and said that anybody caught with hemp on their farm, and Deborah, you might not even know this, but that was because DuPont wanted to sell nylon rope to the Navy. And all rope was made out of hemp. So instead of DuPont saying, hey, I have a better product, they went backdoored the government, had laws passed to banish hemp from all property. And if you got caught with hemp on your property, they seized your property.
And
farmers went out and burned everything they could find. And all of our animals used to live on that.
Yeah.
And we'd eat the animals. And so our whole endocannabinoid health was taken away from us when they took the hemp plant away from the animals that consumed it.
At the same time, they grew marijuana. At the same time, they put marijuana with hemp. They're two different species entirely. And they said, this is really bad. And it's for the same reason, because people were using tinctures of marijuana, all kinds of stuff to heal themselves. And they didn't like that. They want us to go, they said, oh, the black people are going to get stoned and rape you. Okay.
Well, that was the war on drugs. That was another whole disaster.
Yeah, right. And exactly. And that's what's going on now. And so I'm talking to a person who has candida, right? And I was telling him, what are you doing? I'm taking this pill. Really? Well, maybe you should stop eating that stuff. Stop eating that. You know, candida has to do with sugar and yeast in your body. Has to do with your stomach not functioning right. Well, maybe if you actually leaky gut. What do you think leaky gut is? Right? Because the poisons are coming into it. So maybe if you stop eating the junk, the sugar and all this stuff, maybe you might heal better than you take a pill. One of the things I teach people, you can heal yourself easily by, just stop. Because if you stick your hand in the fire, you're going to get burned. If you take your hand out of the fire, your body will heal. Duh. And that's what's going on right now.
That's what my partner, Pauline, does. She's a healer, and she has been for years. She's licensed in, I think, 14 different modalities, everything from Ayurvedic medicine, master yoga, Reiki, I mean, right down the line. And when we first met, she was like, oh, she was fixing my back. I had a discectomy in 2001, and the doctor warned me, once I do this to you, in about 10 years, the one above it and the one below it are going to go out. And I actually got 18 years out of it. But anyway,
and they did go out?
Yeah, the one above and one below. They're still bulged to this day. There's a big bulge on them.
Because I had me in 2000, and I don't know if that's happened to me. That's interesting, huh? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway, so I came to her because I didn't want to take the pharmaceuticals. I was in just so much pain. I went to the hospital. They're like, okay, I wanted to get an MRI, and like, well, you can't get an MRI. We need to treat you first. And I'm like, all right, do whatever you have to
You have
do.
to jump through hoops.
Yes, and you go up the ladder. So I was going up the ladder, eating my freaking opioids and all this other shit, steroids, opioids, muscle relaxants. After about a week of that, I was in so much pain, and I said, you know what? I'm done. I locked myself in the room, water only, no phone, no television, meditated for 3 days and cleaned myself out. And then I crawled down to a local health center called Valley Spirit in Connecticut, Washington Depot. And I went into the owner and I said, look, I need help. I need acupuncture. I need Reiki. I need deep tissue massage. I need mild yoga, something that will start to stretch out these tendons that are pulling everything together and causing this pain. And so she goes, all right, I'll give you Pauline for Reiki, the yoga, and the deep tissue massage, and I'll give you the Jampa for herbs and for acupuncture. So I would be going in there 3 days a week, getting treated. And so Pauline and I became friends. And so one day I was on her inner room on the table, and she goes, so what do you do? And I'm like, well, I'm a soil biologist. And she goes, well, what's a soil biologist? Right? And so I'm like, well, I look at microbes in the soil and I decide whether, they're healthy or they're unhealthy, and how do I turn this soil system back into a healthy system so that the plants that are there are super healthy, or the vegetables are have more minerals and nutrients, or whatever. And so she's like, well, do you ever work with cannabis people? And I'm like, yeah, they love their plants. The gardeners and the landscapers, they're hard. They don't care about their plants. They look at their plants as money, whereas cannabis people look at them like it's herb. It's it's got, it's money, but it's also there's a lot more benefits out of it than there is grass clippings. Well, to me, grass clippings are still worth a lot, but that's needless to say. So she's like, well, I have all these clients, and I need access to some really clean cannabis. And I'm like, well, the people I work with only grow 100% regenerative and organic, so that you can't get cleaner medicine than that. So I've brought her out to California. I introduced her to some of the people that I work with out here. And then we established a relationship and started getting her some, I don't want to call it RSO, because it really isn't. It's much more of a clean extraction. There's no, naphthalene or anything like that used. And so I started getting her product, and the problem was she just started getting really paranoid because we're in Connecticut, which is a
illegal
prohibition state.
Yeah.
And so that was another reason why we looked for another state where we could go, where she could feel at least comfortable working with her patients, because the last thing in the world you want to do is get arrested and thrown in jail for having cannabis, right?
Right.
Sanity of humanity.
Anyway,
so that's what she does for a living. And so I totally get it. I totally understand, what you're talking about as far as healing people. And she's got, young people, she's got older people, all different types of, from cancer to Crohn's to IBS. And it all goes back to the one thing that she does is she starts with, okay, first we're going to do an astrological reading on you. So I can kind of see, when you were born, what magnetic or paramagnetic forces that were present at the time of your birth. Then we're going to look at your eating habits. Then we're going to look at your mental health. That's something that a lot of doctors don't even talk to you about this shit.
No.
Right? They don't ask you, what are you eating, or what are your belief system? How do you treat yourself during the day? Are you kind to yourself? Are you beating yourself up? Do you meditate? Do you do yoga? Do you walk?
No,
all
they
the
don't
most
care.
important things, right?
All they want to see in your
have
office.
another pill.
It says you have to come into my office at least once a month. That's it. I want you to come in and take this pill. I mean, I have a doctor. I went in there once. He's retired now. I went there once. That's because I cut the tip of my finger off. Okay. And I went there and he said, what are you doing here? You never, I don't take the flu shot. I don't take anything. He says, you're the worst customer I've ever had. You're not getting sick. What is wrong with you? And on top of that, you did a really good job, because I was a medic in the service. And you should have seen me in the service. I was in the Navy. They actually, so somebody got shot up, and you know, I'm sitting there going, well, maybe somebody should do something. So I learned about herbs. I would look around, making pulses, you know, put it on him, and I peed on his leg to stop him from getting gangrene. And they say, hey, you're good at this. So then maybe then they would shoot at me. I was declared dead twice.
Wow.
This is 17 and 18. And so I was actually doing pot at that time because they gave me this drug to take, right? It's a little pill. And my friend says, open it up. Inside is a little red pill. Take that red pill. And I would take the red pill. I'll be vomiting. I say, so imagine a helicopter. The guy's going like this. You know how the helicopter's got the big window, right? You see this vomit on the inside of the window, and the guy would be like, he vomited again. I said, why are you vomiting so much? Why? I'm eating the stuff that's making me sick. We'll smoke this. As soon as I smoked it was like, okay. I got court-martialed 14 times for smoking pot. It was probably the first medical. So the doctor would go to the court-martial and say, leave him alone. He's better with the pot than with the drugs.
Interesting.
You know, and that's how I got turned on to pot. And to me, it's a healing herb because I teach. One of the things I try to do is key it into people's consciousness, help them to understand that they have the power to heal. The Mother Earth is giving us all these wonderful tools to heal. Because what does it do? It changes our consciousness. One of the things I recently did was the bullfrog. I think it was the toad.
Toad medicine.
Yeah, it was wonderful because to me, it put me in they thought I died. The guy said, stop breathing, somebody should do something. It was really funny, but I did it and I just got into space, which when I died, I left my body. And I'm used to leaving my body as a kid. Remember, my mother's from Yugoslavia. She's a traveling gypsy band, okay? And they were Jewish or whatever, and they went to Puerto Rico. They changed to became Catholic to get away from Hitler, okay? And so my mother taught me all these, because she was the head priestess of the Santerre religion. Santerre is Buddhism and Catholic together.
Interesting.
Okay, so she told me how to do tarot reading. She would take the crystal ball and the cigar and do readings, and I see auras, I see people's energies. As a kid, I used to walk up to people and go, I think you're going to die. What's wrong with you? My mother said, never tell anybody they're going to die. Never. You got to shut. Don't do that. And so to this day, I work with energy. I work a lot with energy, but it also transfers over to the trees and to the plants.
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay, you know what I mean? Because if you see energy, if the tree's alive, you have this wonderful aura. And then the aura of you ever been in a forest, no electricity, nothing? It's like one big giant auric field. And the bugs and the insects are all happy, and the birds are all, because one of the subjects I'm dealing with is how trees communicate. Okay, and so I started talking because one of the things I learned about psilocybin mushrooms or any other drug is that when you do a psilocybin mushrooms and you think you're tripping, you're actually in the consciousness of the psilocybin, the consciousness of the earth. Okay, so your consciousness is actually, and that's why you're tripping. You're going, I don't know. Eventually, you can tune in, you relax, and you let Mother Nature teach you.
Yeah, you communicate.
And my because one of the things I do now is I have a nonprofit church. It's called Astro's Garden. I started it in 1970 in Gainesville, Florida, and I started you have to. It's a nonprofit, but it's a religious, charitable, and educational organization. So as a religion, because they have to say you have to be religious. I said, I'm not religious. I just want to be like a New Age teacher, but you have to category as religion. So educational, I started the Living Institute of Survival Technology, okay, to teach people how to survive, basically. And you basically just listen to Mother Nature. Mother Nature tells you everything you need to know. And then that's how I got the name Invisible Gardener, because I started doing gardening for people at night under the light of the full moon. Because I was reading about Steiner's setup, and you have all these cycles of the moon and stuff like that, and energy. It's like that's an ideal time to do stuff on the right cycles of the moon. And so I would do it, and if I were to do a garden at night under the right cycle of the moon, it would flourish. It would just go nuts. If I do it on the wrong cycle, it would be like, no matter what you do, hello, wake up, nobody's going to do anything.
And so, nobody talks about this. Maybe the Farmer's Almanac does. I learned it.
Yeah, the old Farmer's Almanac. That was like, and I didn't even have to, because I would, if you tune into nature, you automatically know what the cycles are. You don't have to have a book tell you this is a good time to plant, right? Because you know that, you feel, you can see it. The energy changes. And so that's been my whole thing. It's like I have a wide range of interests. I'm not going to answer it. You know, it's a phone, right? I have a wide range of interests. One of the things that happens is that when we talk, I actually broadcast to the universe, and people pick up, and they have to call me. My friends have to call me right now and talk. I don't know why I'm calling you now. I feel this energy. I need to talk to you. I go, yeah, right?
You and Leighton seem to have similar childhoods. Like you at 6th grade, him at 7th grade, and how you develop is pretty fascinating.
It was really weird. We just met a month ago.
I know. I think
literally.
it's miraculous.
I would have loved to have met you in
Collaborate?
the 70s, you know? I
Right.
would love to have met you. You know, how old were you in the 70s?
Well, I'm 57 now, so I would have been in my early teens, late, single digits. 70, so 73, I would have been 10.
I would have loved to have run into you because at 73, I just got out of the service in 1970.
Okay.
I lied to them. I told them I was 18. I was really 17. So what happened was I went to join the Marines. I don't know why, and they said you have a heart murmur.
You don't know why.
Right, you have a heart murmur. So I went in my car and I meditated, and I went to the Navy and said, "You're fine, join." right. And
you know what, Andy? It's funny. My doctor used to make me do that too. He would be like, I had to get a medical card because I was driving a box truck in Massachusetts. And so I had to get this little card. And part of that was, I couldn't have diabetes. I couldn't have heart murmur, blah, blah, blah. I couldn't have high blood pressure. So he would go, every time you walk in here, Leighton, your heart's just ready to fucking blow up. So just turn the light off. I'm going to leave you alone for 5 minutes. Just, go to your happy place, and then I'll come back and take your blood pressure and you'll be fine. So I understand exactly. It's the energy. It's the energy around us that I absorb.
Yeah.
But, I did want to talk about something that I've been working on lately, and that's called a podcast or a live virtual conference that's called LearnLivingSoil.com.
Oh.
So I gotta write that down.
Yeah. The first one went off on November 16th or 15th and 16th, and you can still get the recording. It's only $50, really short money. I talk about the physical properties of soil. A good friend of mine, Chip Osborne from Osborne Organics, talks about soil chemistry. Dr. Elaine's there. She's talking about soil biology.
I want to be on it.
Yeah, the next day is all about cannabis. So the next session comes up on January 16th and 17th. And this time we're going to be talking about AMO, which is aquatic microorganisms, endophytic bacteria, which are or endophytic bacteria and fungi, which live inside the plant. We're also going to be doing mycorrhizae fungi with a friend of mine, Dr. Efren Chavez, saprophytic fungi and yeast with a couple buddy of mine, Craig and Leaf or Life. And let me think, there's something else we're doing. IMO with Chris Trump, which is natural farming. And then there's 4 more, there's a total of, it's a 5-part series. But also simultaneous to that, we're also getting ready to launch a medical conference where we're going to talk about the endocannabinoid system and how cannabis functions in our body. So
that's another story there.
Yeah, people need to know this. A lot of people want to try this. Just like you, it healed you, Andy. It made you whole again.
What happens? What happens is that energy travels through our body, and it's not like one solid wire. They actually jump. They actually have they have synapses where the energy flows and actually jumps across to the next one. It's not a solid piece that goes, and so what happens when we get sick is that that connection gets covered with junk.
Yeah.
And guess what removes it?
Well, the easy water does, and the plaque. The easy water can clean off the outer skin of the shell of the shell of the bacteria and allow it to communicate to the one.
So does the cannabinoid.
Endocannabinoid system. Yeah. Exactly. So anyway, that's going to be another 2-part series that kicks off January 30th and 31st.
So we can go up there and sign up.
February 28th and 29th. Just go to LearnLivingSoils.com.
Okay.
The medical one has not been announced yet. That's going to be announced probably in the next week or so. But the other ones are the first one is already available. The recording is $50, and the next one goes off. I think we're going to have that roll out on Monday, so you'll be able to sign up for the one that's coming up in January. That'll be $50 again, early bird, and if you wait till the last 2 weeks, then it'll go up to $75. But we're just trying to keep it as affordable as possible for people, understanding that everybody's financially stressed because of this nonsense. And we want to get the word out, but we also want to pay our speakers for coming.
How are you doing it, through Zoom?
No, it's actually through a platform called Big Marker, which allows us to have, the interaction, as well as, we have a guy behind the scenes doing all the questions. There's a live chat. So it's similar to Zoom, but it's a little bit more structured and organized and easier to work with.
Well, and when is it going on, during the day, evening?
It's on Saturday and Sunday. We chose a weekend so that people could attend. And again, if you buy the ticket, you get a 30 days of the recording. So that if you can't spend the whole time, that's fine. You still have a whole 30 days to listen to it. And a lot of the people that I've spoken to said that, oh my God, that was too much information for me. Thank you for making it recorded so that I can come back and listen to it over and over and over again and take notes, because we don't give you a couple little nuggets. Like a lot of podcasts, you'll hear 2 or 3 good things out of 2 hours, right? Who's got time for that? So we're rolling out a ton of information, rapid fire, to really get you what you need to know, so that you at least have the right questions to ask.
And are people signing up? Are people signing
Yes,
up?
Pauline, wave, come over and say hi.
Hi, Pauline. Hi.
That's Andy, and then this is Deborah.
Hi.
And then this is Poe.
Oh.
Hi, Mo. Hi, Mo.
What a loving dog. So cute.
Have you ever heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza?
The name sounds familiar. I mean, I'm not a good name guy. Like, I have to see the face, but
This guy is absolutely amazing, because he teaches you how to heal yourself.
yeah, well, that's kind of what we're doing with that medical side, is because, we're going to be addressing mental health. We're going to be addressing the endocannabinoids.
We have to be careful. You're going to get, the establishment is going to take you away for one reason or another.
All right, Andy, I got all kinds of energy. I can hide. I could go invisible. I'll go stealth on them.
Yeah, you're pretty much.
Soil biologist.
Well, it's true, because they'll I had a lady on, and she wrote White Water. It's called White.
Oh, what, the Clintons thing? The
No, it wasn't white. It was called Whitewash.
Okay.
It was about Roundup.
Oh yeah.
And she was a reporter. She actually worked for the company, and then she left it. And the information, and so the company Monsanto has been after her and telling all kinds of lies, all kinds of stuff, everything, attacking her left and right, because she had say this is true. But you know what's interesting about this Monsanto thing and Roundup is, I don't understand. So they're actually paying millions of dollars to these people who suffered from this, right? Yet you turn around and you have people are still buying the stuff. It's still being sold. I don't get it.
Andy, they're making it stronger now. You go in there, you look at it, it's extra strength Roundup. Like, what the fuck do you need extra strength for? It's already powerful enough.
When they first started with the genetic modified organisms, I tell people it's not GMO you have to worry about, it's GEO you have to worry about. They had a court case where it was thrown out because they said GMO is totally safe. Farmers have been growing tomatoes, and that's a genetically modified organism. We are genetically modified organisms. When we're born, we're different than so they say they threw it out. It's genetically engineered organisms that we need to deal with, because there's 3 types of genetically engineered organisms. One is they wanted to expose the genes to radiation. The other one is where you took the genes of a cow or a chemical and spliced it into the gene, right? And the other one is it's totally different setup. It has to do with how a scientist can go and manipulate things, right? Yep. And genetically engineered organisms. So when I first heard about that, I had this guy came on the show. He was actually working for Monsanto. So they wanted to do genetically modified lawns and genetically modified trees. So this guy's job was in Colorado to drive around and look for weeds that showed these traits. It started to that they would get modified. You know, they would get pollinated, and then he would drive out. So he says I would have to drive hundreds and hundreds of miles away before I didn't find it. So they said we're not going to do that now. The same thing with genetically modified trees. So this company, golf course, for example, you know, they have these genetically modified trees. The bugs were dying. The bees and the birds were dying because the birds would eat the insects that was, you know, living on the genetic modified pollen or whatever. Same thing with the corn. You know, the corn. It's one of the. So the corn has the corn sucrose, the sugar, right? That they make from corn, right?
Yep.
So that's genetically modified. Right, corn syrup. So now they had a new one, and they were going to call it, "If we eat this, we will die." So now they call it something really good. It sounds really good. Oh, that's natural. It's not, and that's what's going on right now. There was a lady whose kid was getting the leaky gut thing, right? And the mother says, "Well, they lived in the major corn area where there's like millions of acres of corn, right? And that they would eat corn. What's wrong with corn, right? You know." But this, the lady took the kid off that corn, started giving him organic corn, which it wasn't, and he healed himself right up. It's leaky gut stuff, you know, and so right now the Roundup. You know, here's another thing to wheat. Genetically
You can't
modified.
digest it anymore.
No, wheat is not the same thing. There's a program, a movie called What's Up with Wheat. You should watch it. It's really mind-blowing because wheat is in everything. Yep. And we eating wheat now, and we're dying.
It's like corn syrup. Corn syrup's
Yeah.
and everything.
Or
And you know,
yeah.
the other thing is no one's talking about is the forever chemical.
Forever chemical.
The stuff that comes off Teflon production, the stuff that comes off fireproofing.
I mean, going anywhere.
And it's in every single one of us.
It's in our bodies.
Toxic levels.
It's in our bodies.
And people wonder why we're all sick.
And you can't get rid of it. You have to go through. You have to do the way you get rid of it is through frequency, through sound.
Fasting?
That's what I do. What?
Doesn't fasting work if you fast?
No, it stays in your it stays in your body. It stays in your cells and your blood tissue.
Fast, don't your cells eat the bad cells because they don't have any other food and they kind of?
But it's in your cells. It's in your body, and it's just like plastic. Little micro.
Oh, hey, buddy, relax.
Little microbeads. Little microbeads do not go away. They're
Come here, buddy.
like forever. It's like forever.
And everything.
Scientists are saying that there's no place on the planet you cannot find microbeads.
Yep. They found them they found forever chemical and microplastics on Everest.
In the deepest ocean.
Deepest ocean trenches.
And you know what this stuff do? They absorb radiation.
Mm-hmm.
They do?
They absorb radiation. So you know the big trash heap in the ocean?
The floating island.
Right. Those microbeads, it's basically radioactive because it absorbs radiation. And radiation ain't going to go away for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. There's a name for the age of mankind.
Yeah, the plastic era.
You got it. And it's a strange name for it, right? Basically means plastic. If you have an alien come to Earth 10,000 years from now, you know how they look at the side, you have the different layers.
The horizons.
They're going to say there's a layer of plastic all around the world. Everywhere. You can't go anywhere you're not going to find plastic. They found this whale full of plastic in his body. Died. Yeah. Human beings are full of plastic. Right?
No, there's a George Carlin skit on plastic. It's hilarious. It's so inappropriate. It's not funny.
I know.
But basically he said, well, we were here. Our only job as humans were to make as much plastic as possible for the next species that's going to come along because it's going to live on plastic. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, if you're depressed and you want to laugh your ass off, listen to that Carlin about plastic. And
to make matters worse, we have decided to do this nuclear power plant thing. Now look, nuclear power is fine if you base it on thorium, not
thorium,
uranium.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's two nuclear power plants in the world, one in Russia and one in India. based upon thorium. Does not produce radioactive waste. You know why we do nuclear power plants? Thinking the public say, oh, it's produce energy. No, because you use nuclear weapons from it.
Yes, you get the byproduct is the stuff you use to make weapons. Exactly.
And every nuclear power plant on the planet is leaking. On top of that, where they store it, it's leaking. They wanted to store it in where, Utah somewhere on the
mountain.
The mountain somewhere,
Yucca
right?
Mountain.
Yucca Mountain. But the storage was only be good for maybe 500 years. But the problem is the radiation will be like tens of thousands of years. So figure that one out. So I talk a lot about, we go through this climate change. We're going through, an ice age and the climate warming. People don't realize that we already begun the ice age. They say, well, wait a minute. We just got into this climate global warming now, right? The last time we had an ice age was called the Little Ice Age. That was preceded by the medieval warming period. The medieval warming period kind of tells you what time, when it was happening. It was during the medieval times. It lasted 500 years. It was followed by the Little Ice Age, which lasted another 500 years. And just think of George Washington crossing the Delaware in the big portrait. There are icebergs in the river. So that was towards the end of it. Let's see. That Frenchman. That what was the guy?
Napoleon.
Napoleon, right? Napoleon. He had a really rough time because he was during this, and the same thing with the England war, because there was major ice there. That was the Little Ice Age. So we have managed to, within a short period of time, increase the temperature more than any other time in history, really, really fast. And we're gonna go really fast, really hot, really fast. But what happens is we're gonna be followed by a really massive ice age. And that ice age, it's normally an ice age we can make through, but we're not gonna make it through a nuclear ice age. A nuclear ice age. We have all these power plants. So what happens if they get frozen and they get destroyed? It's going to be nuclear power, nuclear radiation everywhere. So like literally we're going to take down the human race with us. We're going to take every bird, every animal, every insect, every microbe, anything that's alive, we're going to take away because we cannot evolve in this type of radiation. How's that? Yes, dear.
I've got to bow out. I've got a couple coming over to pick up some food I've prepared for them.
Okay.
Because they're hungry. So I got to go pack it up for them.
Yeah, I know you weren't supposed to be on this long.
No, and they're coming over at 3, so I got to go pack it up.
I know.
But Leighton, please come back.
Oh, I will.
January. We love you, and I'm sure our audience loves you too.
Well, thank you, Deborah.
It was so nice to meet you. I'm so glad you got in contact with Andy and I heard the story, and it's wonderful.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas, sweetie.
Merry Christmas to you.
Same to you, Deborah.
All right.
We'll talk some more, okay?
All right. Okay. Bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So here we are, Leighton.
Yeah. So what do you want to talk about, brother? I mean, let's talk some positive stuff and how the progress that we're making.
Well, usually the last week of every month I call it environmental alert. I've been doing it for centuries, trying to tell people alert, but that doesn't seem to work too well. People are just, human race are just they stick their head in the sand, but their butts up in the air.
Mm-hmm. Well, they don't want to know. If you stop and look, it's scary, right? But the kids are all looking at it going, shit, we got to do something here. And
that's a positive thing. I think that we're a very unique species. We can create anything. We can work our way out of anything. We have the ability to think. We're highly intelligent, and the children now have better. They should.
Oh, they're way better than us. Way better.
I know. They used to see some of the auras of some of these kids are like, these kids are super intelligent, and they're too young to do anything about it. But there are some, older ones, and maybe in the 20s, that kind of stuff. And they need to step up now. They need to say, okay, stop it. And to me, it's money. That's the core. That's the core of everything right now. Money. And so if you get rid, that's why I like Star Trek so much, right? No money, right? You get rid of the money, you get rid of religion.
All the problems.
Religion, money. You think religion has to do with God? No, it's money.
And power.
And power, exactly. Medicine has to do with healing? No, it has to do with money. Agriculture has to do with money. So, and I always thought So like when somebody's lobbying, that should be illegal because basically you're giving them a lot of money to do what you want to do, right? Right.
Mhm.
So it has to do with money. So I feel that, and we're never. It's not too late. You know, you ever hear Kiss the Ground?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So you should get more involved with them because there are lots of young people doing it, and they're really, really. I tell them, look, okay, so it's cool to kiss the ground, but we really need to kiss the earth because we have to kiss the water, kiss the air. You know, how can you have? A long time ago, I told people, how can we have a really cool organic garden that's just toxins everywhere? You almost have to do that biosphere. Put it in. That's what I liked about the biosphere. Put everything inside. Don't leave it. Just stay in there. If you go out, you have the space suit. You walk out. Hey, how are you doing? I'm sorry. Right?
And then you go in and take it off.
And
The reverse. The reverse.
They had a really good idea, but they didn't get the recycle. They didn't get it down right. They just
Andy, people called it a failure. I don't. I call it lessons. It's lessons, right?
Yeah.
And they learned that they had an imbalance. That there was more oxygen being consumed than produced. That's just a minor tweak.
Yeah.
The biggest issue was the mental health of the biospherans. You know, they were locked in this space, and they began to argue and form teams and sides. And a good friend of mine taught me that the key to all of this is if each and every single human said, you know what, I'm going to tolerate you, I'm going to embrace you, I'm not going to declare anything that I do is right, and I'm not going to declare anything you do is wrong.
Right.
And by not defining something as good or bad, if you define something as good, then you define something as bad.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't
don't
work.
define anything. Just
That's
be tolerant of each other. And like, look, man, if I cut you, you bleed. You got the same basics that I do.
Well, my blood is green.
Yeah, I know yours is, but mine's still red. It was all those emeralds you ate when you were a kid.
My blood is green.
But anyway, I mean, that's the way we have to start thinking about this. Is like, I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care how young or old. I don't care, how your eyes are shaped. You're a human. You are my brother. You are my sister. And I don't care what religion you believe. You believe what you want. It's all good.
And we need to take it a little further. We need to say the trees, the birds, the soil, all these things demand our respect. We need to treat them as equals. We're not here because the earth is for us to do as we wish.
Well,
which
we're
I love
not
that.
here to conquer nature. I mean,
I love that, right?
The
The earth is here for us to do as we wish. Animals are here to destroy and do as we wish. That's like really a bunch of idiots is what we're doing, right?
But that goes back to money and power. And that's the problem. And it always has been. Money really is the root of all evil.
So how do we change that? How are we going? So you change that by helping people's consciousness. If your consciousness is in the right place, you won't care about power. You don't care about money. You see what I mean?
And we were talking about this last night in my study group. That if we could just allow all humans to hit their full potential, so they don't have to pay anything, they don't owe anything, they all have a place to live where they're comfortable.
You're talking about Star Trek.
Yeah, right. You have enough food, you have enough water, you have enough cover, and you can live to your full potential.
But here you are.
Dance, you can sing.
You get up every day and say, how am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to buy food? Right. And you're not going to get your potential there.
Nowhere near.
Nowhere near. And the kids are brought up that way. I need to work. Why work? Just do what you're really good at. Everybody does what they're really good at, what they want. Follow your bliss. I love that, right? Follow your bliss. Whatever you really like to do and you're really good at, everybody will just take care of each other, And the same thing when you go to another continent, like you go to Africa, you don't say, well, here, use this. Africa is one of the most richest in resources. I would love to go over and say, hey, look around, look what you got here. You don't need to imitate us. You don't need to use malathion because we did, because they're saying, well, you use malathion to control this disease and this pest, therefore we should be able to use it too. I go, no, we've
already taught you don't use that.
Right.
That's what happened to us.
And DDT, all these things, right?
Yeah.
And so we need to allow them their space, allow them, and you can help them. You can help them but you don't help them by saying, okay, so the Monsanto went to Africa and they gave them billions of genetically modified corn seed, right?
Yeah, and they did it to India as well, and now India is like, no, we don't want you anymore.
And you can't. And then they came back and says, well, you have to buy more because they ain't going to produce more seeds. And on top of that, the doctors are saying there's no nutrition in this food. You may have fields and fields of corn, but you're going to die from malnutrition.
Yeah,
right?
Literally.
Like, literally die from the bugs were going, I can't eat this stuff. Right?
Right.
The bugs will say, I can't eat this stuff, right? And so that has to change. You see, and I'm hoping that the consciousness of the people, because that's what the Aquarian Age is all about. Right now, we're overlapping the Piscean Age and the Aquarian Age. So we have fishes that swim in the ocean, and we have Aquarius, are basically fishes fly in the air. You know, it's a different consciousness, right? It's a different energy. I teach people about, you know what it is when you really go from one age, from Piscean Age to Aquarian Age, is that the solar system, the galaxy, is traveling through space. And it actually traveling through different densities of space. And actually, it's a cycle. That's why
it's going all the way around the super galaxy.
That's why we're going. And then there are different energies of space. So when you get into a certain place where your consciousness, to me, see, we are one consciousness. We are all one consciousness, not just individual consciousness. I teach people lucid dreaming.
Yep, I love lucid dreaming.
In the dream world, we can everything is created in that dream world and manifests here.
And we can control it if
Exactly.
we learn how to do that.
Exactly.
It's an amazing way to dream. I mean,
Exactly.
and you're releasing all of that subconscious thoughts and encouraging them, which is beautiful. I mean,
so one of the things I do is I teach group lucid dreaming, so we can
do
it
you
as
can
a group,
join into other people's dreams
as a group together, and so we get them to each write down what they dream about, and they all go, well, holy shit, we're doing this. Because one of the things I was doing early 70s is to get a group together, and they don't need to even be in the same city. They could be miles and miles, oceans apart, and go in their dream world and talk. One of the things I do is I visit people in their dream states. Okay, I teach them how that I said, first I tell them, look for me. I said, well, are you like Andy? I said, no, I actually appear as a crow with a cigar. Look for the crow with a cigar. That would be me. Okay, because you can manifest in any form, in any shape you want to. And so lucid dreaming is it's the key to understanding that we're all one consciousness. When we talk about one God, right? Well, one God is one conscious. We are gods, but we are like the drop in the ocean, that kind of stuff, right? You're a drop, and we put the drop in the ocean, you're gone. You're no longer right. You're a drop. I do a lot of stuff in terms of past life regressions for people. I actually do past life readings for them, and I try to teach them. You're not getting the lesson, are you? You're still doing the same thing.
You're still here. You're still here doing the same thing.
Over and over and over and over again.
The definition of insanity.
This small group of people, you know, they say, why am I so attracted to you? I go, well, maybe because you've done this many times before. And maybe by now you will get the picture, right? But they still, it's a consciousness. So right now we're going through a major consciousness change. And we're going to survive it. The world will survive. People will survive it. This virus is just a social consciousness that's happening to us. The world, we have this disease, right? And it manifests. It does manifest as a virus that's killing people left and right, or a disease, you know. And so the way to change this is change our consciousness. We need to teach, you know, get a child, show him how to meditate, show him or her how to meditate. You know, a lot of kids you don't need to teach them. They'll start meditating right off the bat, right? They'll start meditating right off the bat. We actually unteach them. When we take them to class, we teach them how to do something different than meditate, you know? And that's really bad. That's what we need to do. And it's not like we have endless amount of time doing it. That's part of the issue right now. It's like we have, you know, we're moving so fast into this destructive stage right now that the world is going to. There's more methane now. We used to be a methane planet, right? At one time, we were just methane, and this micro.
We were a lot of different things, you know.
Yeah, this micro came along. Yeah, this microbe came along, started taking methane and gave off oxygen, right?
Right.
It actually found it on a small part of the. There's only one place in the world that you can find this microbe now. Is at the bottom of the ocean of Hawaii, where that volcano is doing its
Yep,
thing.
the
Right?
vents.
It's right
Yep, the
there.
vents.
It's right there. And they're trying to take it, and maybe we can recolonize it again, right? You know, and this whole thing is it's really interesting because you know what fractal is, right? So there's actually a formula for the universe. There's actually a mathematical formula. And if you look at the fractal, there's a place of calm and peace, and there's a place where it's chaos. We live in a world of chaos, but this little calm and peace controls the chaos. And so, to me, is we have to expand our consciousness. We have to, like you said, we have to recognize the other person as us ourselves. I hurt you, I hurt myself. If we get into that place, we stop, because basically what we do now is we're not hurting ourselves, we're hurting everything around us. We're hurting people.
Andy, think about if there was never a war.
Yeah.
How far would we have evolved by now?
Yeah.
Right? How
right.
far would we have evolved?
We seem to have gotten right into wars.
Right out of the gate, and we still didn't learn. You know, I mean, I think this is the key to it. It's like, okay, we're a group of people. We need to elect somebody to represent us. No, you don't. You're a group. You should stay as a group, equal. But no, we want to elect someone. We want to have a chief, or we want to have a president or a king. And so then they get a little power and they're like, this is kind of nice. I like this little bit of power. I want more power. So I'm gonna do certain things to give myself more power and to make myself a god. And then once I have absolute power, I'm absolutely corrupt. And then I don't care about my people, and I'm gonna crash the civilization because I don't want them to take over my position.
Let them eat cake.
And the problem is, we've done this how many times, Andy?
Over and
over again. And so
there's one time that women controlled, and I like what they did because they didn't go the war ways.
You mean the pagans?
Yeah.
The pagans worship the soil, the earth, the animals. They worship the woman because she could give birth, give life. You know, and I agree with you. And generally speaking, you know, they tend to be a lot more, how do I say this? Thought-provoking. Like they think about it both ways. They don't just think about it one way.
If you have a baby, you're not going to be too excited about killing things.
Right.
Right off the bat.
You're creating life. You're not going to want to kill shit.
You're not going to be wanting to kill things. So, but I think, so there's still, I know we're going to go into a consciousness change. We're going to go into the Aquarian age. I know this is happening right now. We're overlapping. I can see people, brilliant, glowing lights all everywhere. So I have hope that these people will let all the people die. Let the old guard die, and let the new guard come in. So that's what's going to happen. Basically, all the fishes are going to drown in the air because they can't fly. Right? They can't deal with this energy. They either have to evolve and deal with the energy, or it's just gone. That's what's happening. We are going to, and you and I are like the tip of the sword, you know, pushing through. Yeah,
you know what it's called? The gate crashers.
The gate crashers.
And they're the first ones to get bloody, dude. And trust me, I am so scarred up from how many times I've crashed this gate. You know, it took all the arrows and all the swords and all the friggin' hot boiling oil. You know, but that's what you have to do if you're gonna make changes. You got to be the one to go through first. You can't just tell everybody else to do it.
Exactly.
You know? So you got to lead by example.
So that's what my music is about, because I tell people I call it inner gardening music. See, and it really was meant for the plants and so the trees will listen to it, and the bees and the birds, and if the human starts to listen to it, their body starts to respond to it. Their consciousness change, and if your consciousness change, you're not going to be so eager to be destroying things. Right. See, and that's what we have to do. We have to, and this whole oil thing, you know, that's really, you know, this whole use of oil that keep constantly polluting the environment. We have to. The earth will clean. It's just like in the human body. If we stop doing the thing that's bad for us, we'll heal. Yep. If we stop doing the things to the soil, the earth will heal. You see, that's what we have to do. That's exactly what we have to do.
I mean, I think that's why the USDA says it has to be in a farm that would use synthetic has to sit fallow for 3 years for it to heal. And personally, I think it takes more like 5 to get
3
some of
years
the
is
life.
it's not even.
No, it's not enough. And
Not
so,
enough.
but it's they had to draw the line somewhere. And
It depends
it's
on how
better-
you heal it.
30
Well,
seconds.
yeah.
We got 30 seconds, guys. Okay,
Oh,
so
man.
listen, I want you to be a regular on this show because
Sure.
it makes a big difference. So I'm tired of sitting here talking to myself. You know what I mean? You're right. And you need to invite all your friends who are on the same path to come on board and be part of it.
Yeah. Sure.
All
Sure,
right.
I definitely will. And so are we doing it next Saturday or?
Yeah, I'll be back next Saturday. Let's do it because that's going to be our last Saturday here. Why not?
Okay.
not,
do
right?
you want me to invite a guest in for that one?
Anybody you want to invite that you want to talk to, they want to share with us what they're doing. The more, the better.
Okay.
The more we can tell people we're not the only ones doing this. And other people, this is what they're doing. That's what we're going to do next year. We're going to have I like to have a guest, as many of them as a regular base. You know, we want a guest at a time to give them the opportunity to do too many people. You just have to, right? So
Yep.
let's do that, brother. Let's do that. I love you, man. I really do. You're wonderful. Take care, okay? We're going
All
to go now, okay?
All right. Peace out,
thank
brother.
you. Namaste.
Namaste.
As my girlfriend likes to say, Satnam.
Amen, dude. Amen.
Okay. Take care, everybody. See y'all later. Bye.
All right. Merry Christmas,
Thank
everybody.
you. Merry Christmas.